So we're just going to do a search for Scratch, and that will bring us to scratch.mit.edu. If we click on that, there are a number of things we can do. We can join Scratch, and if you do that, you can choose a username, a password, and then you will need to put in an email. You can sign in if you already have a Scratch login, or you can just create without signing in. Now you can also download the offline version, but for now we're just going to work online. So when you come into the Scratch environment, this is what you will see. So you're brought up first with some tutorials, and you can have a look through some of those tutorials, and you can just work your way through those. I'm just going to close those so you can have a look at those in your own time. And then that brings us to this Scratch environment that we have here. So we have a number of different areas on the screen. We've got our blocks over here on the left hand side. We've got our scripts area in the middle, and then we have our stage here on the right hand side, and we have our sprites or our characters down on the bottom here. So I'm just going to go through some of the things that we can do. So if we want to create a new sprite, we can choose a sprite. So you can upload a sprite from your computer. You can choose a surprise sprite. You can draw your own sprite, and you can choose a sprite. We're going to just choose a sprite for now. And again, here you can have a look through the various different types of sprites. There are lots of different animals, people, fantasy, dance, lots of different ones. I'm just going to go back to animals. And if we look at some of them, so if we click over the butterfly, you'll see that it has a couple of different costumes, and that will show you what it's going to animate like. This butterfly here has a number of costumes as well. If I look at the beetle, nothing is happening here, which means there's only one costume. The bear walking, again, you can see how the various different costumes are going to work together. Again, we've got a bird here, and it shows how that's going to move as well. So I'm just going to go down, and I'm going to look for Dot, who is the little Scratch dog. So I'm going to click. So now I have two different characters. I'm just going to drag the cat over here, and I'm going to put the dog here. So that's my first thing, which is just about selecting a sprite. If I want to get a backdrop, again, if I click on the little wheel here, it shows me I can upload a backdrop, I can get a surprise one, I can draw my own, and again I can choose one, and I'm just going to choose one, and this is from the defined ones that are already there. I'm just going to go for an outdoors, and again I'll just go for the boardwalk maybe, or something like that. So now I've got my two characters, and I have my my background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these characters to move based on various different things. So I'm going to get the cat to move on the arrow keys, and I'm going to get the dog just to move over and back constantly. So a few things I'm going to do. I'm going to get the dog to move first. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to pull across when green flag clicked. So what I'm going to do is when the green flag is clicked, he's just going to move over and back, just move a couple of steps, and then bounce off the edge and just keep going over and back. Now I need to do that, I need a forever block. So I'm just going to pull in the forever, and then I'm going to go for motion, and I'm going to move 10 steps. So now if I click the green flag here, this will get him to move, but he's moving and he's ran into the wall, or ran into the edge. So what I need to do now is I need to go down in the motion blocks here, and I need to find if on edge bounce, and if I put that in, now he bounces off the edge. But you can see here he's going upside down. So what I need to do now is just underneath the if on edge bounce, I've got a set rotation style, and if I pull that up and put it in between the when green flag clicked and the forever, if I stop it now, so now you'll see he's not going up and down anymore. Okay, so he's just going over and back and over and back, and that's for the forever block here. It's just moving and if on edge bounce. So I've just stopped him now by pressing the red button up here. The next thing I'm going to do for him is I'm going to put in another when green flag clicked, and this time I'm just going to do a forever, which is in control. So this time I'm just going to make use of the different costumes, and if I click on the costumes here, you'll see that there are a number of different costumes, and if I move all these together, then if I call these one after the other, it'll make it look like he is walking. Now this one has him turning backwards. I don't really want that one, so I'm just going to get rid of that one there, so I'm just going to X out of it. Now if I go back to my code, I've got forever, I can do looks, and if I go to looks, I've got next costume. So here I've got forever and next costume, and then I can just put in, now if I click that now, you'll just see what's happening. So you see the costumes are changing too quickly. So I'm going to stop that again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to, I can't remember whether it's control here. Wait 1 second, and I'm going to put that in. And instead of waiting 1 second, I'm going to wait 0.5 seconds. So now when I click the green flag, you'll see that the costumes are changing and it makes it look like he's walking. So that's the movement on the dog. And again, I just press the red button and that stops him. So that's the dog movement. You'll notice here that when I click on these blocks here, there are lots of different options and they're all color coded. So if I'm looking for the events, they're all kind of that orangey color. The control is a slightly darker orange. So you've got things like forever and repeat in there. The events are things like when a key is pressed, when the sprite is clicked, when the green flag is clicked, things like that. We've got motion, and motion just it's movement, turning, going to, gliding, all those types of things. We've got sounds, we can play sounds, and then we've got sensing and lots of different things. But you can see as I click on each of these, all the blocks that you have at your disposal change. So you can see, you can access those blocks. So that's just basic movement on the dog. We're now going to move on to moving the cat on the arrow keys. So to do that, I'm going to click on the cat, and you'll see here I don't have any script for the cat. So what I can now do is I can go into events, and I'm going to pull across when space key pressed. I'm going to change space key to right arrow, and when the right arrow key is pressed, I'm going to change the X, because X goes over and back and Y goes up and down. So if I want to move a character over and back, I change the X. If I want to move them up and down, I change the Y. So I'm going to go here, and if I move down a little bit, I can change X by 10 when the right arrow key is pressed. So now if I press the right, and I'm pressing the right arrow key here, and the cat is moving, I can now right click on that and duplicate it and just put it down here, and then I can say when the left arrow key is pressed, I can change X by -10. Okay, so now when I do that, now he's backing back. So it might be that I want to do something like point in direction. So when the right arrow key is pressed, maybe I want to point him in the direction 90 degrees. And when the left arrow key is pressed, maybe I want to point him. And here we can just choose what direction I want to point him in. And I can go to -90 degrees. So now let's test that. So he's going forwards, and then he turns around. Now again, he's turning upside down. So I need to set the rotation style here. So I'm going to set it. So now he's going right and he's going left, and he's not going upside down anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go space key pressed again, but this time I'm going to go up arrow key. So when up arrow key pressed, I'll go back to motion, and this time I'm going to change Y by 10. So now if I hit the up arrow key, he's going up, and I'm just keep continuing. And then the last thing I want to do is when down arrow key pressed. So I just duplicate it and again select and choose the down arrow. This time I want to change Y by -10. So now when I press the down arrow key, it comes down. When I press the up arrow key, my left is still working, my right is still working. So the last thing I want to do in this project is I want to detect if the characters are touching off each other, and if they are, then I want to get the cat to say something. So I'm here in the cat, so I'm going to do when green flag clicked, and I'm going to check this forever. So I'm going to check forever if they're touching each other. So I'm going to say forever here. I'm just going to click on that one and just pull that over here. Just move down just so I have a little bit of space. So I'm going to stop that for a second. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to go into control again, and I'm going to pull across if, and I'm going to say if it's touching. Now if I pull this across and just drop it in here, I can say if it's touching, and I can say if touching dot, which is the dog. So I'm saying if touching dot, then I'm going to say hello for 1 second, and I'm going to move up. So I'm going to change my Y value by 50. So I'm just going to move down here and change Y by 50. So now when I click the green flag, so he says hello and moves up. Now I'm only changing Y by 10, so I should have actually changed it by 50. So if I just change that by 50 here, I'm just going to select that. I'm going to move down again. I'm going to click the green flag. He says hello and he moves up, he says hello and he moves up, he says hello and he moves up, and now he's out of the way. Now you could change Y by more than 50 to make sure that he's out of the way all the time, but that's just basic collision detection. So this is just a starter project which shows you how to work through selecting some sprites, putting in a background, getting the sprites to move, and then getting them to detect that they're colliding. So I hope you found this useful.